And there we go. All right. First week of football is in the books. The mic came unplugged at the last second. We're here, and we learned a lot. We learned a lot from this game. Let's talk about the implications from this game for fantasy football, from a fantasy football perspective. Make sure you drop a like if you would, please. And subscribe. Obviously, if you are here on a regular basis, you should definitely just be subscribed because it helps the channel out. Let's talk about Monday Night Football. All right, so obviously ended up being a fairly high-scoring game here. It kind of wasn't until it was. I mean, obviously Chicago ended up having a touchdown, not only really late in the game, but also from a pick six. Minnesota ended up turning it on. I think, you got to talk about J.J. McCarthy first. J.J. McCarthy, 13, only threw the ball 20 times here. But, there are definitely some pretty big fantasy implications in this game. I'm just going to predict what they are. McCarthy, threw the ball 20 times tonight, had 143 yards, did throw for 2 touchdowns, and did have a rushing touchdown as well, which you like to see J.J. McCarthy use his leg, especially after the injury. But you do probably want to see more volume than this on a consistent basis from J.J. McCarthy. And so here's what implications I think that's going to have for fantasy football in the long term and the short term. First of all, Jones didn't really turn it on there until the end, and without the touchdown pass, this is kind of what Aaron Jones does. 8 carries for 23 yards. This is a lot of what he did last year, I felt like, because when you're looking at a lot of his, he had some games where he had 5 carries for 22 yards, right? 10 carries for 45 yards in Week 18. 7 carries for 29 yards against New York. He only played a little bit of that game. 9 carries for 32 yards. He has these games where he does this, but he will salvage his day with a receiving touchdown, or he'll have 6 targets or whatever. He did turn it on at the end, though, and so with Jones, I do feel like he's going to be a little bit more hit or miss, but you always have that explosive playability waiting to happen with Aaron Jones, and so we did see that come to life here, and we did see him score a touchdown, and that's kind of what you want from him. In terms of Jordan Mason out-carried Aaron Jones by double, pretty much. I mean, he had 15 carries to Aaron Jones's 8. Obviously, Aaron Jones ends up being, more the receiving guy. And again, I do think in terms of explosive plays, in terms of touchdown upside, it's always going to be Jones that has that. And that's why you see Aaron Jones, despite getting half of the carries that Jordan Mason got, Aaron Jones is the one that ends with twice the amount of points that Jordan Mason gets. And so a little bit of a juxtaposition there, but that is kind of how this offense is going to work. And it does unfortunately make it a little bit rocky for starting Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason going forward. Look, if Jordan Mason, gets a rushing touchdown in there, he's going to be looking pretty solid here, I think, as a weekly stream option maybe. But again, the reason we were worried about Jordan Mason taking him in the 8th, 9th round where you're taking him is because he's going to have a ton of weeks where he just has 8 points, even when he does get 15 carries. That being said, both these guys look like they're going to be fantasy viable at points. I will say this. I did not draft a single Aaron Jones this year. I did not draft I drafted one Jordan Mason because I got him in the 9th round, like 9th, 10th round. I got him really late. I would not love having to make the decision between Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason and flexing them or starting them this year. I had to start Aaron Jones last year in the flock league, so it worked out. But honestly, it was kind of painful sometimes. He was solid last year, but he just would lay some eggs occasionally. So both those guys, obviously, bright spots for both of them, and then things that are concerning for both of them as well. Go into the receivers. This is where I actually think you could see some longer-term fantasy implications based on what we saw from J.J. McCarthy tonight. With Jefferson. Jefferson only had 4 receptions in this game in 7 targets. And truthfully, now that I don't have Justin Jefferson on my team, I can say this and not feel terrible about it. One thing with Justin Jefferson is last season, he didn't really have that game-breaking 25-point per game upside like you saw him have in recent years, right? You saw his points per game go down pretty significantly last year, of course. 317 compared to the 368 points we saw in 2022. Still the wide receiver too, but not getting 184 targets, getting 154 targets. It looks like that's going to be the deal with Justin Jefferson again this year. Again, kind of salvages his day, but 14.8 points for Justin Jefferson is pretty pedestrian in my opinion. With 44 yards, you're not really looking at the stat line for Justin Jefferson as a Jefferson owner, and you're super encouraged by it. Especially in a game where you score 27 points if you're the Minnesota Vikings. Now, where I'm more concerned here actually, and maybe this will end up being stupid, I'm more concerned for Addison actually. I I wonder how much a wide receiver 2 or a second option. First of all, you can tell why I mean, I know it's 1 week, so I'm not going to totally victory lap here. But this game right here, this exact matchup, exact game, exact scenario is why I drafted 0 TJ Hawkinson this year. I think it's going to be tough for a wide receiver 2 to produce in this offense like Jordan Addison has been able to produce the last couple of years when he's been a low-end wide receiver 2. I think it's going to be tough, to be honest with you. Jalen Naylor had three targets. Adam Thielen had 1 target. And again, JJ only threw the ball 20 times. When you're looking at what Sam Darnold did last year even, I mean, Sam Darnold in 2024 wasn't throwing the ball a ton until the end of the year. They started ramping him up a little bit more, but at the beginning of the year especially, I mean, Sam Darnold in his first game with the Vikings only had 24 passing attempts. But then it didn't get over 30 until week 5, and only went over 30 twice through 9 weeks. So I worry about the passing volume, and I also know that what we saw tonight is that, Aaron Jones is going to get 3 of those targets. The running backs are going to get 4 or 5 of those targets. That leaves tonight, 15 targets for the rest of the receivers. And Justin Jefferson's going to get probably half of those at the very least. I'm a little bit worried that Addison is not going to be able to, on the weeks that he doesn't have touchdowns, he's going to completely just lay an egg. I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm also worried about Justin Jefferson's upside a little bit here. Again, it's 1 week. It was J.J. McCarthy's first game, so I'm not going to overreact here about that. But I'm just thinking out loud in terms of how the numbers are going to make sense. I thought J.J. McCarthy, of course, he had his moments where he looked good. He had his moments where he did not look good at all. I think for the most part, though, what you come away with here is that the passing volume from Minnesota is going to have to increase in order for these guys, Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, to be productive. And the fact of the matter is, the thought that was living inside my head all offseason was, I don't think there's going to be enough volume there, especially for Hawk. And, Hawkinson, 4.5 points tonight. I'm not so... look at his last 7 weeks of the season, 6 weeks of the season. 5, 8, 10, 4, 11, and 2. My prediction, I know this may be bold. This is why I didn't draft any of them. My prediction is that I think TJ Hawkinson is going to be somebody you have to replace on the waiver wire within 3 weeks. Maybe that will end up being a stupid take, and I'll look dumb for it. But I'm dropping hot takes because we're here tonight. I really am skeptical. I think this offense will get better as the season goes on. I'm not freaking out. Definitely not jumping ship on somebody like Jefferson. I would be more worried about an Addison, though. Overall, J.J. McCarthy played pretty well in his first game, really his first game in his career. And, he'll learn from the pick 6. They're going to have to let him throw the ball more in order for this to be a productive fantasy offense. So let's go to the Bears. This one's tough because Caleb threw the ball 35 times. He ended up throwing the ball 35 times. He ended up scoring 24 points here. But I don't know. It technically isn't garbage time. So they were still in the game. So I'm not going to discount the production that he got. I'm not going to discount the production that Rome Odunze got as well. But leading up to that last drive where Caleb Williams had, a rushing touchdown somewhere in there, and then Rome Odunze obviously had his touchdown in the back of the end zone. Rome Odunze had 8 points before that, and Caleb Williams had 12. So I'm not going to lie to you. Before that last couple series, it really did look like the Chicago Bears offense is going to be a very scaled down, less fantasy productive version of last year's Detroit Lions offense in the sense that they're going to be multiple guys who score fantasy points, but not a lot of fantasy points. We look at DJ Moore tonight, 8.8 points, 5 targets, 3 receptions. This is what I was worried about with DJ Moore too, is and Rome Odunze actually out-targets him. So Rome Odunze is the target leader in this offense. It goes Odunze for 9 targets and then Swift and Moore for 5 targets. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that surprised me one bit. I've always thought Rome Odunze was going to be the leading target guy there. But again, before that touchdown, Rome Odunze even himself, even being the leading target guy there, was not really having, a super great night. I like Zacchaeus is second in targets. It's Odunze, Zacchaeus, and then DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift. I almost picked up Zacchaeus before the game. He is somewhat of a streamable option. He really is. this game was weird for fantasy football, but I just still have a lot of questions about both of these teams and both of these offenses. But at the end of the day, you did get 24 points out of Caleb Williams, and you're very happy with that. Swifty, you got 9.5 points out of him with no touchdowns. He had 3 receptions, he had 5 targets, but he only had 12 yards on those. I do like that they're getting him involved. Monangai did nothing. He had 1 reception, so it looks like it's Swifty's backfield, so you at least have that to cling to as we continue to move forward here. And again, in terms of the wide receiver room, I think Rome Odunze is going to continue to be the most productive guy in this offense from a fantasy perspective. I've had him ranked over DJ Moore the entire offseason. So we'll see if that looks stupid or not. It might. But, DJ Moore, Zacchaeus here. And then Luther Burden had a reception he lost 3 yards on, so he ended up having like 0.7 points, and so he didn't really do anything. And my guess is when the utilization for these guys comes out, you're going to see that Luther Burden was not on the field a lot. I mean, Zacchaeus was on the field for 3 wide receiver sets a lot, and so obviously Loveland in his debut, this is kind of more or less what we expected from Loveland, especially early when you think about it. The mouths to feed here are Loveland, Kmet, Burden, DJ Moore, Odunze, and you've got Zacchaeus taking 7 targets here. Like, it's just not a great thing for the fantasy assets in this offense that he is actually taking this many targets, but he is. And honestly, schematically in that Ben Johnson offense, it kind of makes sense. It just sucks for fantasy, and so it's going to make it tough for Burden, I think, to be productive this season. It's going to make it tough, I think, for Loveland to be productive this season. My whole thing with Loveland, from a fantasy football perspective, from a dynasty fantasy football perspective, is I think next year is the year to own him. I'm not sure about this year, so. With all that being said, I do have more questions probably than answers from week 1 for both of these teams. Obviously, Caleb Williams, still a young quarterback with, a brand new head coach, a brand new system. J.J. McCarthy playing his first game in the NFL. Nothing really jumps off the page here. I will say, Kmet actually out-targeted Loveland still, so keep that in the back of your mind as well. But that probably about does it for my analysis. Again, like in terms of how I'm going to rank these guys, I can just pull it up and see if I want to change any of these guys here real quick, and you can see me do it. Caleb, I had at 14. I have him I would maybe say you go here, but I got to move Fields over him too eventually. So, I've got some finalizing to do on those rankings. Swifty, I still have in the 30 range. You can make an argument to put him above some of the guys because of his usage. Now you can make an argument to put it there if you wanted to at like 27. Rome Odunze, obviously I've had at 27 pretty much this whole offseason, like in this range. I'm going to keep him there, and I've had DJ Moore at 33. I'm going to keep him there. Although DJ Moore, I do think you're going to have an opportunity for guys like Ricky Pearsall, Keon Coleman to jump him if that kind of volume continues for him. And then Loveland, we've got Loveland at 11 here. I would probably rank Kraft ahead of Loveland right now. I'd probably rank Jonnu ahead of Loveland at the moment. I would be tempted to do Pitts and Kincaid as well, just because they're going to get a lot more volume, I think, than Loveland. And so, obviously, some decently large fantasy implications for this game. Again, a higher scoring game where you have more than 50 points, but not really super duper uber pumped about the fantasy assets in this game. So, all right, what questions, thoughts do you guys have about the games? Is the J.J. McCarthy rushing hurting touchdown equity of Vikings receivers? I don't necessarily know that that's going to be a thing. I'm more or less concerned about just the overall passing volume. I don't think that's necessarily directly correlated with his rushing there, but yeah, you should be replacing every tight end with the top 3 with Fannin off the waivers anyways. Yeah, maybe. I will say be patient a little bit on Fannin. I will say that. It's 1 week, so. Lost this week because of a last-second switch starting Loveland over Kincaid. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, Nathan did cook me. I know. Should I hit the panic button on Bo Nix? No, I wouldn't do that. Should have spent 40% of my fab on Fannin. My tight end is Evan Ingram. Yeah, you can be aggressive. I don't know if 40% is the right number, depending on your league, but again, I don't know, y'all. I do think there's a slight chance that Fannin ends up going for a higher price than what we're comfortable with here. So, yeah, Jordan says scared for Addison. That's kind of how I felt as well. I will add spots to the league there, Daryl. I think Ben Johnson needs to learn that Swift is not Gibbs. Well, yeah, he's not. I feel like he probably knows that, but if Jefferson catches those 2 drops, he has like 25, and he usually doesn't have drops. That's a good point. I mean, that's the context of actually watching the game where it's like, yeah, he could have had more points. But still, it's still the utilization part of that doesn't change. He still only had 7 targets, and really with Justin Jefferson, I would like to see him get 10 or more targets. That's just what I want to see. So, yeah, it would. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Again, like, you know, Rome Odunze, kind of the same thing. He had that touchdown at the end, and I mean, I don't know. It's outside of that. I'm glad Rome Odunze got 9 targets, but we'll see. So, how do we feel about JJ's stock? You're talking about which JJ, McCarthy or Justin Jefferson? Dynasty question: what do we do with DJ Moore? We've been kind of pivoting off of DJ Moore for a while now. I'm okay if you can still pivot and you're not selling low. Obviously, selling low would suck, but also a tough environment for a young QB in his first start, and that's kind of why you have to take everything in this game with a grain of salt. You know, they're probably going to ramp up his passing attempts, I would guess. KOC knows what he's doing, and he's one of the best offensive coaches in the NFL, so I trust him. But I do have questions. I do think one of Addison or Hockenson is going to be the odd man out, and I've thought that the entire offseason, and I've just picked Hockenson to be my odd man out. So Bears doing Bears things. I'm very sorry about that. Yeah, Bears are doing Bears things. Bears will be Bears. Bears will be Bears. JJ over Caleb, you said. I mean, who are we taking rest of the season, chat? JJ McCarthy or Caleb Williams? You can make an argument to move JJ up here. You really could. I just am not sure I want to be that aggressive with it yet. Caleb looked very good, right? He definitely looked better. Again, the thing with Caleb is he just looks more decisive than he has, and I think that's a big thing for him. Again, he was 21 of 35, so completion percentage-wise, he was right there about where he should be. But, you know, obviously 6 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown. You're talking about adding, again, 12 points to his fantasy score because of rushing. And, yeah, I do think he looks better. I do think he looks more comfortable. I think he looks more confident, and I think Ben Johnson's kind of unlocking him a little bit. So, McCarthy, Jefferson will be just fine. Yeah, J.J. McCarthy is interesting. I mean, again, if he can continue so without his rushing touchdown tonight, what is he at? 17? With 140. He threw 2 touchdowns tonight. Look, I mean, Sam Darnold was productive in that offense. I have no doubt that J.J. McCarthy will be productive in that offense as well, which is why I'm okay. Like, honestly, if we're looking at rankings here rest of the season for quarterbacks, I'm okay moving him up to, like, 14. And then, you know, honestly, at this point, I'd probably go like this. Yeah, it's probably how I feel about it right now. Got to move Fields up, obviously, so maybe have to move Purdy down, but thought Fit Caleb looked fine, just a couple really bad moments, which I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. I think he's just going to have those learning curve moments, to be honest with you. So I like Caleb. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I still think it's Caleb, but I will move them back to back. I mean, I think it's close. Thoughts on Odunze? I mean, look, Odunze, I'm more worried about, I know the talent's there. I'm more worried about the target volume, and he led the team in targets. He had 9 targets. I think that's totally acceptable. If he gets anywhere from 7 to 9 targets a game, he's going to be great, I think. So 15 points for him tonight. Also, great play call by Ben Johnson there in the red zone to get him open. So, yeah, Penix does look nice. You are right about that. He started hotter than he finished, but he did have 24 points. He did have a rushing touchdown as well. Yeah, you're probably right. I should probably move Penix up. So, honestly, I should just sit here with you guys while I do my rankings so you can tell me who I have too low. I think you got to put Penix up here like 17, 18, 19. So, I got to finish this tonight. So, difference in the game tonight was the Vikings rushing. Yeah, and again, like Aaron Jones really started running hard in the fourth quarter. So, I think that's worth talking about as well. So, it's time to take Fan off the tax squad and start him full-time over Loveland. I think it probably is, yeah. I think you can do that in the Dynasty League for sure. You like Bofa's team cooked in the Blue League. Let's go. McCarthy over Purdy next week if he plays with injuries. Yeah, I would be comfortable starting McCarthy at this point with Brock Purdy being injured. I have him 4 spots apart, so yeah, I feel okay about that. But Penix or JJ McCarthy, I'd probably say JJ McCarthy. I'd probably say JJ. It's close though. I've got Penix now at 17 and McCarthy at 14. So we're gonna be taking a long look at screw Ben Johnson. Lost my matchup by 1 because we threw in slants. I'm sorry, Dylan. That's tough, man. That's tough. Like Caleb over Purdy. I mean, you could make that argument rest of the season because if Purdy's banged up, then you probably would want Caleb. But again, we got to see a multiple game sample size. I definitely get, you know, being excited about what Caleb did tonight, though. Jordan Mason's going to be running back 1. He looked awesome. Yeah, and again, I agree with that, but unfortunately, you know, Aaron Jones doubled his points on half the volume. And I think that's not going to be a thing that's uncommon this season for those two. So you have to consider that as well. So Caleb played good against it. It is a tough Vikings defense. Brian Flores, obviously, you know, very, very good defensive coordinator. It's obviously a very, very tough defense to play against. Penix or JJ McCarthy, I would still go JJ probably, but they're close. So, all right, awesome. I love drop a like if you enjoy the Domain After Dark streams. You only have 25 likes, so I still have work to do. I've got to update my rest of season rankings and get a Dynasty video ready for tomorrow. So, you guys are awesome. We'll have a video out. I think I'll release it in the morning. I think I'll release the video early in the morning. Our panics video, guys that we, you know, obviously didn't show up in week 1, and kind of how Nathan and I are gauging how much we should be panicking on them. So, you'll see that in the morning. We also have our buy, sell, hold coming out. In the afternoons, you have 2 videos, and we'll have a Dynasty video tomorrow. Those 3 videos tomorrow from Domain. So we got lots of work to do. So appreciate you guys. I got stuff to do. So glad football is back. I hope you won this week, and if not, I hope you rebound and win next week. That's the boat I'm in. We got a new Flock League episode coming out tomorrow too, so you should have a full day of videos to watch while you work tomorrow. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.